In this demonstration, you're going to learn how to use the Select by Attributes tool in ArcGIS Pro. So I've already loaded up a project. I've opened a map called City of New Braunfels, and you can see by looking at the contents pane, I've got a number of layers here. And so what I want to do is to kind of illustrate how to use the Select by Attributes tool. The Select Attributes tool is located on the Map tab. So there's your Map tab, and then Select by Attributes. When you click the Select by Attributes button, it's going to open up a geoprocessing tool called Select by Attributes. And so what you're going to do here, first thing you'll do is define your input rows. And this can be either a layer or it can be a standalone table. In this case, we're going to be querying the city parcels layer. That's the layer I've selected in the contents pane. You're going to default to a new selection, which will create a new selection set. You do have other options here, including adding to the current selection set, removing from the current selection set, a number of other options here. But we're going to stick to the default here of creating a new selection set. Just below that, we have some tools here called Load, Save, and Remove. We'll talk about those in just a few minutes. And below that is your expression builder. In ArcGIS Pro, they've made it very easy to create an expression simply by pointing and clicking your way through the fields, the operators, and the values. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the field that I want to include in the expression. In this case, we'll just use market value. And what I want to do in this case is select all records where the market value is greater than or equal to $1 million. So you select your field, you then select your operator. So we'll do is greater than or equal to. And then you can either type in a value here, which is what I'll do, or you can select a value. These are values that come directly from the existing attribute table. In this case, I'm just going to type in a value. So we have market value is greater than or equal to 1 million. So again, like I said earlier, they've made it very easy in ArcGIS Pro to create these SQL expressions. If you prefer to type in your SQL code or you want to see the SQL code that's being generated by the interface, there is a toggle button here. And when you click on that, you'll see the actual SQL code that's being generated. Most people prefer just to build these by pointing and clicking. Now, by default, you've got one expression, just one clause. You do have an add clause button. I'll come back to that in just a moment, but this allows you to build more complex expressions. You typically want to validate your expression by clicking on the validate button. If there are no problems, you'll get a message here that says the SQL expression is valid. Now, if there's a problem, right, if there's an error in your SQL code, which there shouldn't be if you're pointing and clicking, there might be if you're typing in your SQL code, so it does have some value there. But as long as your SQL expression is either valid or you could get a warning message. A warning won't stop the tool from executing to completion, but it will, it signals that there may be a potential issue with the output that's being created. So you do want to validate, especially if you're typing in your SQL code. If you're just pointing and clicking your way through this, it's kind of hard to make a mistake. But if you are going to switch over to SQL code and type in your SQL code, you want to make sure you validate in those situations to make sure you don't have any syntactical type errors in your SQL code. So from here, right, at this point, I can simply click Apply. And what it'll do is create a selection set. So in this case, we've selected all parcels where the market value is greater than or equal to $1 million. As I mentioned earlier, you can do multi-clause expressions. And so to do that, you simply click on the Add Clause button. That'll add a second row. It's going to default to an AND operator. The other option here is an OR. I'll just leave it as AND. And now I'll just build my second clause. So I'll do owner name is equal to, and I've got a specific code that I want to use here. As you start typing in values, you'll notice that it automatically will present you with a list of possible values based on matches based on what you've currently typed. And so I'm just going to select a value here. So I'm going to find all parcels with a market value greater than $1 million and where the owner name is equal to Comal County, which is the county that we're dealing with here. So this is an example of a multi-clause expression, keeping in mind that it's going to default to AND, which means that for any record to be selected, that record has to match both conditions. Now, if you switch this over to an OR, what that will do is for a feature to be selected, either of these clauses would have to evaluate to true. But since we're dealing with an AND, we are enforcing this idea that for a feature to be selected, that both of these clauses have to be equal to true. So I'll click apply. And now we've narrowed down our list so that our selection set is displaying only features that match both of these clauses. If you switch over to the SQL, get an idea of what that SQL looks like. Now you can save and load these as well, or you could remove if you just want to start over. That just simply removes your current expression and kind of starts you over with the process. You do have the ability to save these expressions, and you might want to save these if you anticipate running these expressions over and over again in the future. Right? So if you plan to run the same expression at some point in time in the future, you can save it out to a file and then reload it so you don't have to point and click or type in your SQL expression. These can also be exported out to files that can be used in other projects as well. So when you click on save, what it's going to do here is just prompt you for a location, and what it'll do is create an EXP file. That's going to be your file extension. So all you're doing here is just giving it a name. Here's an example, and then it'll attach the .exp. So your SQL clause in this case would need to be saved out to your expression file. And then to load these, what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and remove my current expression just to show you how the load feature works. I've already saved this expression out, so I'm just going to simply remove it and then click load and then double click on this expression file, and you notice that it reloads that expression. So once you've built up your SQL expression, you do have the ability to save these out to expression files, which you can then reuse in the future, either in the same project or another project. All right, that's all I need to show you this time. Appreciate you joining me, and we'll see you next time.